We can get started talking about prepping HubSpot for holiday out of offices. Um, as always, these sessions are meant to be collaborative, so feel free to ask any questions in the chat, raise your hand using the little hand raiser at the bottom of your screen here. And I'll do my best to answer those if they're related to the topic. If they're unrelated to the topic, just drop them here. We'll do our best to just collaborate all together. Those are all words. So today we want to talk about prepping your HubSpot while people might be out of office. There's a few reasons this is really important. First is that nobody wants to get called while they're visiting with their family and have to deal with a HubSpot fire. And then you also really don't want things to be happening in your CRM that you're unaware of during the holidays. Especially sometimes people are like, oh, this isn't that important. Will I even get like form submissions and things over the holidays? One, you might. Two, especially if we're looking at international organizations, it's not a holiday everywhere. I have a client in South Africa, and I'm doing a lot of prep this week, so that I'm hoping that they don't contact me while I'm on vacation, even though they're not on vacation. So worth looking at that. We're going to start talking about what some out-of-office preparation tasks look like. Look at ways to prepare your workflows, both technically and like broadly, like your flow of work for this time. Worth noting, we're going to be kind of talking about both like how to prepare you as someone that may be working and owning HubSpot, but also preparing HubSpot for many people to be potentially out of office. And especially when people are out of office for prolonged periods of time, you might need to change things like your lead routing rules, which if you want people to still be followed up with, but you have a bunch of your sales team out of the office for a week, you may need to route them somewhere else temporarily. Some of the core things to consider here. First is looking at your email schedules, your upcoming email schedules, and making sure that you're adapting those for the holidays. I mentioned, I'm sure I'll probably talk about this a lot because I'm already mentioning it twice. I have a client in South Africa. We started talking in early November, end of October, about what our email schedule looks like in the US for November, knowing that the Thanksgiving holiday is coming up. A lot of people take off that whole week next week, but definitely towards the end of the week. So for that client specifically, we had an entirely different email schedule for the US this month compared to the rest of the world, just because of the Thanksgiving schedule. So definitely take that into consideration with your teams. And again, if you're international, that does not necessarily mean that you don't send any emails out next week. You just might want a modified schedule. Also, a lot of people are choosing to not send a lot of emails out next week. So worth considering. Our email inbox is going to be less busy. Are people going to be a little more like checked out, so more willing to go over and look at your blog versus, a blog email may not usually do well because people are busy and they might not have time to read your blog or feel like they have time to read your blog. The holiday time actually kind of changes that, where suddenly people are like, oh, well, work might be a little slower and they might actually be more inclined to look at things like that. There's no hard and fast rules, but worth considering like both ends of that coin on what you want to say and how you want to say it. I remember last year I ran a whole campaign around this idea. I think I ran it closer to Christmas, an email campaign though, where the purpose of the campaign was basically um, bored this week, watch this video. So you can take a look at things like that. Another feature worth looking at is when you look at workflows specifically. So, if you have any automated emails, definitely take a look at your workflows. And there is in here, you can pause actions on specific dates. And you can actually set these up to run annually even. So I go into my clients' accounts. This is usually one of the early tasks I do for a lot of clients, but I audit all of their email workflows. And one of the things I do is I go in and I say, on an annual basis, delay this workflow. And then I pull all the major US holidays if they're a US based brand. And you can set them up for annually or not, depending on what the holiday is. Thanksgiving is not on the same day every year. So that I actually have tasks as reminders to go set that up at the end of each year. My assistant just went through all the portals and did that for 2026 last week. She went through, added all the 2026 pause dates to our email workflows. So that's an option that you can leverage as well. This will pause actions on specific dates. It does not impact delays or branches. So what that means is if someone was enrolled in this workflow and I had these paused, they would just stay there. They would not have their record edited until after the delay. So in this case, they would get updated on the 26th. Be a little cautious with this and just consider do you need this for your workflow? Why are you pausing it? In cases if someone downloads a resource from your website and you're emailing them the PDF version, we don't need to pause that. They can still receive the PDF version on Christmas. If they download the PDF on Christmas, we can still email them the PDF on Christmas. That's fine. Where this might come into play is if you have any nurture campaigns or long-term plays like that, you might want to delay those campaigns from going out during the holidays, where people just might be traveling and offline, and kind of pick things back up after the holidays. I did just have something similar happen to me today, where I had gotten enrolled in a workflow of one of my clients, and it had a 30-day delay. It said enroll people once they've been created more than 30 days ago. But that meant I got enrolled in the workflow at midnight. So the email I received from the workflow came at midnight. Something similar will happen if you pause actions on a specific date. If everyone's send email is paused, they'll end up getting the email on midnight of the 26th in this case. So you'll just want to make sure that you have a wait until time action. So check that out as well. All right, that was a lot of email talk. Anyone have any questions there? Anyone have any tips, anything they're kind of working on this week in preparation for them being out of office or for the team in HubSpot being out of office? The other thing I'm looking at outside of marketing email type things is lead assignments and lead routing. And this comes into just aligning with your team on who will be in the office and who won't be. You might even want a specific workflow set up, sending emails out over the holidays. So you could have an email set up that goes out. My husband's company's closed the last 2 weeks of the year. If someone was to fill out a form during those days, is anyone going to follow up on those forms? I don't know. Maybe they are. If they're not, then maybe you need an email that goes out for those 2 weeks on any demo form submissions or contact us form submissions. It says, hello, thank you so much for your message. Our offices are closed for the last 2 weeks of the year. If you have an urgent request, send it here. Otherwise, we look forward to connecting with you in the new year, blah, 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 whatever. So worth considering how you're adding out of office messages in thank you emails, even if they're just during that time. You might even want to consider, depending on the volume and your bandwidth, adding something like that to any thank you pages that you have, just saying things like thanks, the same way you would in an email of saying thanks, we'll get back to you. And then also incorporating those in any chat flows. And if you're using like Service Hub, ticket follow-ups as well, any automated ticket follow-ups. And those messages can even if you have some of your team in the office, you still might want to update those things to expect a slower response time, knowing that the team is probably a little more limited in that period. I also include my upcoming out of office in my email signature. Might be worth encouraging your team to do the same for anyone they're like have an ongoing relationship with, just to kind of set those expectations early and often. For lead assignment workflows, you may need to update your routing to only teams that are available. There is a feature to set up like out of office in HubSpot. And my settings. This is user specific. And my working hours. So I can add an out of office inside of HubSpot so that my availability status will be set to away during those times. If you're using a conversation tool, so like a chatbot, those out of offices will help route those appropriately. But definitely check out your routing rules generally and see who's going to be in office. Anyone that you're routing leads to, you want to know who's going to be in the office and who your backups are. You might be setting those round robins. This is like a help desk round robin that's set in the routing settings. A lot of times lead assignments for like new contacts are built in workflows. Just depends on your organization and how you have that set up. But communication's key. Just getting expectations from your team and making sure that you're prepared there. When prepping for this, another thing that came up was potentially leveraging a global workflow partition pattern. Patent pending on that name. But that is a control property that acts as a switch to say whether your portal is in holiday mode or out of holiday mode. What you would do by, if you wanted to set something like that up, is you could set up a property. I'm going to create it manually. And I'm going to just call this holiday mode. Or here, fine. I'll do it portal mode. Portal mode, contact property. I'm going to have this be a drop-down select. Option 1 is going to be normal. Option 2 is going to be holiday. That's it. Yeah. Then I would take all of my workflows. Anyone that like is affected by holidays is maybe another way of framing it. But my first step of my workflow would be checking holiday mode, ? Normal. And I made that a contact property. Mode is any of holiday. Save. And then I'm going to move all my branches to normal. Now when a contact record enters a workflow in holiday mode, I can have an adapted experience. So clone this, paste it here. Maybe during normal business, my leads get routed to a whole group of people. Edit. I'm just playing with a random one, but contacts, owner. Maybe they get assigned to me normally, but I know during holiday times, they need to get set to our backup person, and our backup is Chris, because Chris works on all holidays and never takes a break. So I can set up my workflows to show like this, and then how I would activate this is I would just, say my office is closed Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. I'll just go in on Wednesday. I'm going to select all of my records. I'm going to set everyone to mode holiday. 9 and yes. And then the first thing I do when I come back on Monday morning is I come in and I do the same thing. I just update all of my records and I set my portal mode to normal. And then everyone that gets enrolled in a workflow is just going to go back towards the normal path. Just gives you a little bit of flexibility. If you want to assign people to backup owners, if you want to delay workflows a little longer and just have a different experience when it's in holiday mode, and you don't necessarily want to have to pause all of your workflows. Like I mentioned, pausing the workflows can cause things to happen, like an email getting sent at midnight when you really didn't intend for that to happen. The benefit of this is it gives you one property that controls all of your workflows, your nurtures, your rule assignments, ticket assignments, anything like that. You can just control that all within one workflow. And even you can delay like SLAs from starting so that there's fewer, you're acknowledging the need for a holiday change. That is not something I have personally set up, but it is something that came up while we were looking at different ways that people might be preparing portals. And I definitely think it's one worth considering depending on your HubSpot instance and what your holiday policies are. whether pausing works for your business or whether you kind of need a curated experience. Another use case of that holiday schedule might be if you wanted to have like an if then in your demo follow-up emails, you would have like a normal demo follow-up email that would say, hi, thank you so much. We'll reach out within 24 hours versus your holiday mode follow-up email might say something like, hey, thank you so much. Appreciate you signing up. We will get back to you as soon as we can, but know that our business, we might be a little slower to respond than normal, given the holiday. Just say given the holiday. Don't say the specific holiday because then you can turn this on and off for 4th of July, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. And then it sets the precedent without needing to change things. Another thing worth considering is a pre-holiday checklist. Marcy, I actually think I'll work on putting one together and we can kind of share it in Sprocketeers. But obviously every business is a little unique, so you might need to create your own, but you'll want to confirm out of office dates and availability, especially of anyone that's an owner of getting assigned new leads and things like that. I also, with that, would definitely recommend you helping your team explain the importance of early and often explaining upcoming out of offices. You might need to freeze and adjust workflows, adding holiday messaging to forms, to chats, to emails, things like that. And then you also might want to have a post-holiday checklist, things like removing holiday mode, re-enabling your workflows, things like that. Because what you don't want to happen is you come back on Monday, back from the holiday, kind of, especially with Thanksgiving, once you come back on Monday, you're kind of in Christmas mode and you forget to change the routing. And now all the routing is getting sent to one person, your like backup holiday person, and not to the regular team. Has anyone done planning like this? Or has it always felt a little ad hoc?
I don't think I've ever done planning like this. It's good to know, but like in your experience, how many companies or clients actually do this?
I do a version of this for most of my clients. I don't do it for every holiday, but for like Thanksgiving and Christmas where they're more extended, I definitely help all of my clients reroute and make sure that their experiences address the time of the year, and that we have some sort of messaging that is reestablishing expectations with whoever's receiving our messages. It ends up being pretty simple, I think, in execution. Like you can make it more complicated, but in reality, it's ends up being changing your lead routing, which is something most teams need, which is why I say I do it for all of my clients. It's not very often that organizations don't have some sort of modified routing during the holidays. And then really that pause workflow makes it fairly easy. Like I said, my assistant went through and did it for all my portals last week. She added all the 2026 dates. And then the last piece is like tailoring your messaging, which sounds like a bigger undertaking than it ends up being. It's really just like a couple of emails or a couple of landing pages where it's really relevant. Usually any of like the sales contact pages, or if they have Service Hub as well and they're using that, we might have something there.
The one thing that I saw you do is like take all your 152 clients and, change their, like timing, right? So that's a small database, but if the clients have thousands and thousands of records, like let's say 10,000 records in their database, how would you handle that?
The same way, that's just a demo portal. I would still just select everybody in the database and set them all to holiday mode. Probably also need a workflow, thinking through it to update any new contacts created during that time. But yeah, you would just set everyone the same way I did. You just select all a million contacts and set them all to holiday mode.
So you said like there are workflows that can do that as well, right? So it's like you don't always have to manually select everything, all the contact records.
No, it's just if all you're doing is setting one record and everybody's the same, it's probably going to take you just as long to make a workflow to do it as it would to just select all contacts and edit them.
Good to know.
Yeah, you could do it with a workflow. It's just if you're just selecting everybody and setting them, you can also just select everybody in your database and edit them.
So a lot of times I've done work in the back end with, like just bringing data out, making updates and bringing it back in.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do this the same way through import, export, and updates?
If you wanted, I just think that would take longer. It would take me longer. I mean, all I would do is come over here to contacts in this case and select everyone and select all. I mean, in this case, it says 159 here, but if there was 1 million people in this database, it would say select all 1 million contacts. And I would click that, and then I would say edit, and then I would just change mode. And then I would type in 1 million. It works like that. There's no extra time if there were twice as many, 3 times as many as what I have in this portal.
Okay.
So by the time I exported all the contacts, edited them in a sheet, and then re-imported them, that's going to take me 15 minutes at least, versus this is going to take me 30 seconds.
So there's no performance degradation if you select 1 million.
It'll take a little bit of time, but not any more time than importing and exporting. And I don't really need them to be set into holiday mode like in this minute. It might take, but it's still going to do it. It just, the system might take some time.
Maybe a good time would be when at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you have that many to do that versus during the day or anything like that. Just some best practice, I guess, for admins out there. You'll be amazed at what admins do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it would be like, I've never set it up like this, but yeah, I think in theory it would be the last thing you did before you left for the holiday. And you could, so next week, I'm not working next week, but my company is still open. In that case, I might want to set a workflow up to do this for me. And I could certainly do that using on a schedule, contacts. Let's do it once. Let's do this on the 26th, the day before Thanksgiving, 5:00 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to just do record ID is known, which is just any contact. Every contact in HubSpot has a record ID. Sometimes if I'm also trying to find everyone in HubSpot, I might do create date is known, because if your record exists in HubSpot, you have a create date.
Yeah.
And then I might go here, edit record, contact record, mode is holiday, save, and then I could turn that on. I would also, in this case, need another workflow.
Change it back.
That, but that's only going to set people who are already in my portal when I set it. So I'll also need to set one for anyone who is created between the Wednesday and the 30th, let's say.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So continue. And I'll want to set all of them to holiday mode as well. Otherwise, if I don't have this running, then anyone new created is going to be set to like normal, basically. And then it wouldn't actually help with any of my like follow-up emails. But to your point, to Deepa, you could run the same workflow I built on, setting everyone to holiday mode at 5 p.m. on Wednesday. I could do the opposite basically and set everyone back to normal at 9 a.m. on Monday.
I think I like this better, but that's just me.
Yeah, there's not one way of doing it. It just depends on everybody has different preferences. You're going to need a workflow either way for new contacts. So I think from that perspective, it makes sense.
Cool.
All right. I think those are all the tips and warnings I have. I can put a checklist together, Marcy, and we can share that.
Sure.
Anyone have any other questions or anything they're doing to prepare for the holidays in their HubSpot portal?
I don't have anything right now. That was great information, though.
All right. Well, we will we'll have the recording up on YouTube, and I'll create that checklist.
Perfect. Thanks, Daisy. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.